What's good, everybody? I am Uriah. Welcome back to another episode of our 50, 40, 90 interview series, where we have conversations about hoops with key basketball figures around the world. Don't forget to click that subscribe button like you're downloading tickets to a Game 7. I am with someone today who is no stranger to basketball. As the founder of Basketball Society, an independent multimedia brand, and the co-founder of Holistic Hooper, Martin Soaries seamlessly combines his passion for the game with his commitment to holistic health. With a background as a former high school and college basketball player, Martin brings a unique perspective to his work as a skills trainer, having honed his craft for close to a decade. Welcome to the 50, 40, 90 show, Martin.
Uriah, good to see you, man. Thanks for having me. And I am honored and humbled seeing the kind of basketball figures you guys have on this show. I was certainly humbled to get the call. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let me explain why I reached out. A few months ago, your reels began popping up in our Instagram feed, and your content really caught our attention. We thought it'd be great to have a conversation with you about your podcast and your journey, and we're just excited to have you on.
Well, I'm excited to be here, man. Always great to talk basketball with people who love basketball. So thanks for giving me a chance to do that.
Absolutely. Real quick, let's just give people your information now, and we'll repeat it at the end. Where can people find you? Like, what platforms are you on, and what are your handles?
Yeah, my personal page is my name, Martin.Soaries on Instagram, and you'll see Basketball Society on Instagram as well. That's at Basketball Society _. And then Basketball Society is on YouTube, where I host the Basketball Society podcast, as well as co-host the Protect Our Queens podcast, where we talk about and cover women's basketball on live shows every week.
Wow. You cover it all, man. When you say holistic, man, I can't wait for you to get into that. And I love your channel. A lot of your content, it covers the gamut of basketball, whether it's women's basketball, pro hoops, you talk college, and you do it in a way that is like, you know what you're talking about. That's why we even asked you on here. So let's start with your journey, Martin, because I'm sure it's a fascinating journey on your behalf growing up. So how did you get in hoops? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the way my parents tell it, I picked up a basketball at 3 years old and clearly showed a passion and love for it early on. And so my basketball journey, like most people's basketball journey, extends into so many different areas. There are so many people and so many places involved in it. I played ever since I can remember, travel teams, AAU, middle school, high school, had a chance to play 4 years of college basketball at Eastern University, small Division III Christian school in Pennsylvania, where I really learned what it meant to actually be a basketball player. People don't realize when any level of college basketball, if you're playing in college, you're learning a different way. It's a different kind of basketball than high school. It's right. Literally like night and day, from the preparation, the training, the scouting. Everything is just different. Learning to work on your body, I didn't really learn to work on my game until I got to college. I was a pretty good player in high school, but college on any level just really takes you to another level in terms of how you understand the game and how to approach the game. I can't help but mention easily one of the biggest parts of my basketball journey is the fact that two of my sisters played in the WNBA. They both went to Rutgers, and short backstory on that. My dad was a pastor of a church for 30 years here in New Jersey. Coach C. Vivian Stringer, Hall of Fame coach, who was the head women's coach at Rutgers, which is right down the road from my dad's church. One day she brought her incoming recruiting class all to church one Sunday morning. And a girl by the name of Tasha Pointer was part of that recruiting class, one of the best players out of Chicago ever. If you know Chicago basketball and you say Tasha Pointer, they're going to know who you're talking about. And Tasha led Rutgers to the Final Four in 2000. She was drafted very late in the WNBA, ended up being cut. So she had a pretty short stint in the league, went on to become a Division I coach at multiple programs. Then my other sister, Cappie Pondexter, who Tasha introduced me to, Cappie went on to become one of the best WNBA players of all time, literally. Wow. Two-time champion, WNBA Finals MVP. She, as I said, she also went to Rutgers. And so growing up with two women who were so influential and so prolific in the game of basketball really did help shape my early passion and understanding of the game at a high level.
Wow. Rich family background. And it's fascinating. Now, your sister's older or younger?
They're both older,
Okay.
and they're god sisters. They're not my blood sisters, but they
Okay.
literally helped raise me. Cappy taught me how to drive. So, I mean, it doesn't get more sisterhood than that. We've got plenty of brother-sister stories that'll validate that. But yeah, both older. Cappy, Tasha was the oldest, and then Cappy was like 4 years after her. So once Tasha was going out of, once she finished at Rutgers and then went into her pro career, Cappy came right behind her, and she basically brought Cappy to our house and was like, hey, here's your new sister, and she's going to be way better than me.
So it all makes sense just talking to you right now, seeing you on your channel and Instagram and YouTube, all the basketball knowledge imparted to you by your sisters and your dad being a preacher or a pastor for 30 plus years. Like everything that you are presenting right now, it all makes sense. But I want to make sense of this because you cover so many bases when it comes to basketball, and you do a phenomenal job conveying that in a really entertaining and educational way. I'm talking about the Basketball Society podcast. I messed up, guys. You told me no the. You're right. So what made you want to create this podcast, Basketball Society?
I think, Basketball Society was its own platform and brand for years, close to a decade. And I'm in year 3 of the podcast right now. And I really just wanted to have a flagship platform for the brand that not only just featured me, because the vision is to expand it and have different people kind of be hosts or co-hosts of the podcast and really create a basketball society. So it's not all about just me, but people were having me on their podcasts. I did a little bit of radio before, and I'm constantly talking about basketball and offering my takes and opinions and in debates with people. And I mean, we know podcasts have just continued to grow as one of the top mediums for delivering content. And so I had been talking about basketball and doing stuff for years. I actually started out writing with a blog. That's how Basketball Society started, was with a written blog when I first got out of college. But then I realized I got more into video and producing video and editing video. And so I had done a couple little stints on podcasts before, but didn't really know what I was doing. And once I got a better feel for producing my own videos, I thought, let me just start the podcast and create like kind of the content hub for Basketball Society. So that's why I decided to start it. And Uriah, as you touched on, my approach to the game of basketball is such that there are many components to it. Something that I really pivoted from with my platform. If you saw my Instagram page in 2016, 2017, you'd think that we were trying to be House of Highlights. All we did was post NBA highlights. It was all NBA highlights. And frankly,
Right.
That's how we built up our following.
Okay.
But over time, I realized that that's not what I want. I didn't want to be an NBA highlight page. I wanted to be a real, wholesome, tangible, genuine, real basketball platform and page. And there are so many things happening in basketball. You don't want to put pressure on yourself to be covering everything. But with my experience as a player, having gotten into skills training, my interest and commitment to women's basketball, it wasn't going to be sustainable to act like we were just going to be this NBA highlights platforms. And so
Right.
The podcast was a way for me to start to express the different elements of basketball that I'm interested in and that I wanted to speak on.
Now, you said some really interesting things just now as far as starting at one point and going another direction based on your experience, skills, interests, and it seems like you're in the right place. It would be a shame that your talent, your gift would be isolated into just behind the scenes video creation, which I'm sure you're phenomenal at. But I want to go to another aspect of what you do, and that is the holistic hooper approach, which I was like blown away. I was like, this is more than just talking about the game. It's branching out into another realm that can benefit and adds value to the community. So how did you get the idea to have a holistic hooper approach to basketball? And what does that term even mean?
Well, holistic hooper just means that you're looking to elevate your, not just your mental approach, but also just how you connect with the game of basketball, which means changing how you connect with your own body, with your own mind, with your own breath.
Yep.
It started during the pandemic when things were obviously pretty hectic and gyms were closed and kids didn't have anywhere to work out. It was very tough on young basketball players during that time. And a buddy of mine that I met in college, Eric Van Tyne, he is a fascial stretch therapist. And so he's one of those that puts you on the table and swings your leg around and tells you how to breathe and gets you into a deep stretch. And he's a master at that stuff. And so he came to one of I had a clinic, an outdoor clinic. It was during the pandemic. It was towards the tail end. So things were starting to open up, but we did something outside, just a nice little small clinic for the community. And he asked me to come and bring his table because he had stretched me a couple times. I'm like, man, this is great. I've never felt this way. Brought his table out, stretched the kids on the table. He did me in that hot sun, Uriah. And I got off that table feeling like I had never felt before. And he's talking to me about fascia and stretching and isometric holds and all this stuff. You know, people who know the body and know the stuff. He's going through all this stuff. I'm like, man, tell me more, because I'm feeling like I've never felt, you know, and I'm 30 years old. I'm like, man, this feels amazing. So he inspired me to create. He wanted to create more of a platform. He has a business where he does his fascial stretch therapy. He has a facility up in North Jersey, and he was building that, but also he wanted to connect with more basketball players because he was a hooper. So he was really passionate about, yo, let's team up. You're training a bunch of these kids. I want to bring this stretching and this fascia stuff to young hoopers. Let's just team up. So we decided to create something new, and we settled on the term holistic hooper, which really just felt really appropriate. I'm really bad at naming things. I'm pretty sure he was the one who said it, and I didn't even like it at first. And something over time, maybe I think when we got the logo made or something, it hit me like, no, it's actually perfect. So it's a way to introduce wellness practices to basketball players that, frankly, Uriah, and unfortunately and embarrassingly, we as basketball players, we act like it's just not for us. It's just not the norm for basketball players to meditate and do yoga. You know, as basketball players, inherently, we have this cool factor where we're just too cool for certain things. You know, we're all about swag and cool. And so somewhere along the line in history, we decided that stuff wasn't cool enough for us. When I started to meditate and learn how to meditate and learn how to stretch, and then I got on to yoga, and I'm like, man, I'm 30 years old and I'm feeling better than I was at 22, 23. Imagine what that'll do for these 16 and 17-year-olds who say they want to go D1 and who say they want to dunk and who say they want to do all these great things, but they don't really know how to tap in. So that's how Holistic Hooper came about.
That reminds me of Phil Jackson, who with the Chicago Bulls during their championship runs would have these guys doing what you said, stretching and meditation. Very, I guess, eccentric way of leading a group of grown men, professional multimillionaire basketball players, but it worked. Hello, like stretching, yoga, being in the moment, the relaxation, the breathing, preparing yourself for rigorous or grueling competition. It just makes sense. It makes sense. And, you know, it's funny how you meet people along your journey, and this facial, I forget his name, but the guy who had the facial stretching business, like, just imagine had you not met him, but you probably wouldn't have that part of your umbrella, would you?
Oh, man. No, I mean, and it's crazy because, like I said, we met in college. We were supposed to play together in college, but he ended up transferring after our freshman year. And if he hadn't come to me, you're right, like that. And those are the beautiful alignments in life. It's funny you bring up Phil Jackson. One, I grew up a Michael Jordan fan. I didn't mention that about my journey. I was a Michael kid, and then I became a Kobe guy. It was a very seamless transition. which I'm sure you can imagine why. But Michael, I was a Michael guy, and so I was a Phil Jackson guy. We used to run through the hallways in high school yelling out Zen, not even knowing what it really was or what it meant.
Zen.
It was funny. Yeah, Zen.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine, Brian Keller. To this day, he'll leave comments on my Facebook like Zen. He's like, "Oh, I see you're really the Zen guy now." I'm like, I guess so. But another fun fact is that one of my mentors now, who I've had a chance to connect with and interview multiple times, his name is George Mumford. And he was the person that Phil Jackson brought in to teach the Chicago Bulls meditation
that name,
and yoga.
That name sounded familiar.
He was in The Last Dance. He was in the documentary in a couple episodes. You see him walking with Michael and in the practice sessions and stuff. And when I first got onto meditation and looking for people in the field who were doing this kind of stuff with basketball players and athletes, I had never heard of George before. But as I was doing my research, I came across him, put in a request to interview him. I've interviewed him many times now. I have a direct line to him, which I'm really grateful for. We call him Uncle George. He's the man. Yeah.
Uncle George.
He is as unk as it gets. He's the man. And I'm fortunate to have a good handful of mentors in this space now, who've been willing to share information and resources with me.
Perfect. Well, let's pivot from the holistic approach, stretching, the breathing, all great stuff. But I want to talk about your basketball analysis. There's dozens, maybe hundreds of guys that break down footage of NBA, college, every level when it comes to basketball. And you come across some that are really good, some that you could tell they're kind of getting their feet wet, trying to find their voice, etc. But you found your voice, you tapped into it, and it's very, very impressive. So when you break down any basketball performance at any level, what brings you satisfaction when you analyze these plays? And what's your goal ultimately when you do these videos?
I love that question. What brings me satisfaction and what my goal is pretty much the same thing. It's all about the details, Uriah. There are so many details in this game that get lost in translation, that get lost in the speed and the flow of things. And you could just be watching it. You could watch Shea do a between the legs, 2 dribble pull up, and you don't even really know what he just did unless you go and slow it down and look at the frames and look at his shoulder positioning and look at where his hands are when he hits the between, and then watch the cadence of his footwork when he takes one step after the other. And then when he plants the foot to rise up. I mean, there are so many details that we just miss that a lot of people don't see or don't appreciate or don't even know about. So that's what it is. That's the goal. And that's what gives me satisfaction, is seeing something that just seems like something we always see, but then you really look at it and see the details and you notice something about the footwork or the body positioning or where the eyes are. It could be anything. There's always a detail that's hidden in there that you get to really see when you take a closer look.
I love that the internet has different forms of analysis or commentary. You got guys that are like strictly satire. Then you have guys that they blend a little bit of analysis and humor.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you need a break from all that. Like, someone saying something ridiculous just to get laughs or likes. And that's fine. I love that content as well. But I love your content because when I just want to get to the details, like you said, you present that in a phenomenal way.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Now, I have a theory now that I got to know you a little bit, learn about your family. But you tell everyone, what inspired you to create the Protect Our Queens podcast?
Well, I give credit to my co-host, Dwayne Marcus, who was doing a podcast on a different network, sports, kind of an overall sports podcast. And he just became a women's basketball fan in the last few years. And so he started doing some women's basketball content on his show. He saw me doing women's basketball content just generally on Basketball Society and kind of knew that that's something that I was interested in and committed to. And he invited me to come on his show to just start talking women's basketball. So we would just do segments talking about the playoffs or talking about just things around the WNBA or women's basketball. And we just came up with the idea to create a whole new podcast. Protect Our Queens was something that I had started on my channel prior as just a women's basketball branch of Basketball Society. We did a feature on Notre Dame All-American Hannah Hidalgo, who's from here in Jersey, good friends with her family. I spent some time with her during that pandemic year when a lot of things were shut down. It was a shortened high school season and they weren't letting fans into games. So like high school games were like really weird, but that was a perfect opportunity for me to get with a specific player and see if I could cover them all season and do like, I was trying to do like I was in kind of a documentary feature mode at that time. And I've watched Hannah and covered her since 6th grade. And I knew her parents and I just hit up her dad like, hey, this is the chance. This is a perfect time for me to get into some games, follow her around, spend some time. So I did this feature on Hannah. That was like a Protect Our Queens kind of feature. That was in 2021. And so I was doing some women's basketball content on Basketball Society and just branding it as Protect Our Queens. Okay. And it wasn't a podcast at first until Marcus came along and said he wanted to be talking women's basketball more and more and doing more content. So we decided to start the podcast together. It was on a different network at first, the same network that he started on. But this year we moved it to Basketball Society. We moved it back home, as we said. So now the Protect Our Queens podcast lives on Basketball Society.
Okay. Well, I think I honestly don't know enough about the WNBA or even women's basketball. Not that I don't like it. It's just I'm so into the content that I create, which is focused on NBA content, that I don't really make the time. And I'm going to skip around the questions a little bit since we're talking women's basketball. So I feel bad because the whole pay differential thing and it gets so toxic, right?
Yeah.
I think basketball is the greatest game in the world. I think anybody should be able to play at any level, professionally, amateur, and be compensated for it. But the reality is the NBA does subsidize and gives money to the NBA. That's fine. In your opinion, will there come a day when the WNBA will become more mainstream and possibly turn a profit?
Yeah, I think we're in it now. Okay. I think we're seeing the beginning of the transition now. It's never been more popular than it is now. And it's not going to happen, and it's not happening overnight just like that, just because of Caitlin Clark or just because of Angel Reese or whoever. Right. It's not just like that. But what did kind of happen just like that is the popularity it's never been more popular. And so I tend to remind people as much as I can, especially on Protect Our Queens, that this thing is not slowing down. I'm sure you've heard the name Juju Watkins. I'm sure there are more. And trust me, Uriah, I get sent almost every week a girl who's in 5th grade or 7th grade or 9th grade who's doing things that we have not seen girls do before.
Okay.
The girls' game, trust me, in 5 to 10 years, I know Caitlin people don't like this. I don't really care. Caitlin Clark, I'm not saying she'll be an afterthought, but she'll just be another one of those great players out there. The talent that is coming up in the girls' game is ridiculous.
Good.
And so, again, there's the big bang or big boom, as I called it, that moment between Caitlin and Angel in the national championship a couple years ago that sparked a lot of things, a lot of negativity and stuff, but it led to just the game being more popular, more people talking about it, more people having opinions about it. So I think we're on our way there now. I think the WNBA has a lot of work to do still with managing this product, because they weren't doing well with it when it wasn't booming. So with a lot more pressure on them to do well with it when it is booming and popular. So we'll see what they can do. But there are so many things happening in the world of women's basketball adjacent to the WNBA that I think will benefit the WNBA as a whole. In 5 to 10 years, I think it'll be a totally different atmosphere.
Yeah. I can see the popularity growing, and I definitely can see, like you said, at some point it will turn a profit. It's not going to happen overnight, like you said. Do you think, in this, I'm just taking stuff that I read online. I have no position. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of WNBA. Do you think that something like changing the dimensions of the court or lowering the rim, do you think that might contribute to the entertainment factor maybe boosting a little bit?
Yeah, Shaq is really pushing the lowering the rims thing. He won't let up off it. And who am I to question Shaq, who is obviously an all-time great, but also an all-time great entertainer. And he obviously understands very much the nature of marketing and media and attention. I mean, Shaq.
Marketing king. That dude is the king of marketing.
So I'm not going to say that lowering the rims wouldn't cause more intrigue and maybe some more ratings and popularity.
Right.
And not to nitpick at it, but my only pushback with that, Uriah, is that because even Shaq, he even, said it again recently, was talking about it. His thing is like just a little bit. He's like, I'm not talking about bring it to 8 feet. He's like, I'm just like a couple inches, just so a few women can really start throwing it down.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be that many more dunks happening, even if that happened. Once you start talking about making changes like that, I just don't think that's going to result. There will still be people saying that the game is boring and slow and not skilled. You'd still have those same people complaining. Now, you might convert some more people if there are more dunks. It might be more entertaining. Right. Would I be more entertained to see Asia Wilson dunk on somebody? I mean, sure, see a drop step dunk, 2 hands.
Right.
I wouldn't want to see that. Sure, that's more entertaining.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But if you lower it too much, it's degrading the product. It's degrading the talent and the players. If you lower it just a little bit, it's not going to make that much of a difference anyway. So my thing is, let's just keep encouraging people to watch the product, see how much talent and skill and high level talent is really out there. And it's been out there for a long time. I keep telling people, just because Caitlin Clark is the most popular women's basketball player ever, and there's more attention on it now than ever, and you've got your idiots online that'll say nobody was watching, nobody cared, it sucked. Okay, so you watched Maya Moore and Candace Parker and Diana Taurasi, and you're telling me those players weren't high level?
Lisa Leslie,
players? Lisa, come on. Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Miller. So your argument is that those players just weren't like that? They weren't. Right. Sorry, I can't buy into that. I can't. Sorry. So, timing, social media, all kinds of things have played into what's happening now.
Right.
And I think we can just ride that. I don't think there need to be any real tweaks like that to make it better. I think there's going to be a natural progression that's already happening.
Let's now talk about the state of the NBA today. We just had Oklahoma City get its first ever championship. I enjoyed the series. I don't know about anybody else, but to have Indiana and OKC, small market teams, but young, vibrant, great stars on both sides of the franchises, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And there's always drama in the offseason, and there's trades, there's the draft that just happened. But I want your opinion, because you follow hoops and you're a hooper yourself. How do you feel about the state of the NBA today?
I am a fan of the state of the NBA today. I'm a fan of the parity. I'm a fan of the diversity and depth of talent. I'm really enjoying this era of, we've had, what is it now? We're at, I think, 6 or 7 champions in the last 6 or 7 years. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. I enjoyed the super teams era. I enjoyed, as redundant as it was, I enjoyed the Cavs Warriors, finals rematch for 1,800 years in a row. That was fun. I enjoyed that. But I'm enjoying, and you know what I think I enjoy most about it, Uriah? I think it's because it feels like some of the great players of this era are going to have just more of a chance to get that championship glory and acknowledgement in this era, as opposed to, and the history of the league, you know the cycles that we've gone through over the last couple of decades. You start looking back, it's like you see the same champion, Miami, San Antonio, Golden State, and then it's just different eras. And, not to just totally vouch for these guys, but it's like, a lot of guys, Steph and LeBron took rings from a lot of guys. A lot of guys never got to win because of those two. And there's always guys like that. There's always a period like that. But now we're in this period where it just feels like it's kind of wide open. Now you still got to do the right things. You still got to get the right roster. You still got to be healthy. You still need stars. You still need scoring. You still need the things. But man, it feels like you can really capitalize right now. The Indiana Pacers were just in the NBA Finals. I mean, I love that. I love that. It may not be big market, the attraction that they want, fans or non-fans to have. It may not be that always sexy or whatever, but I'm enjoying going from year to year right now and having just a landscape of like, okay, nothing is guaranteed. It's not top heavy. We can't just say, oh, they're going to the finals again. Oh, it's LeBron in the East again. No, it's totally wide open. So I love it. I'm really enjoying that.
You mentioned the Cavs Warriors series so many years in a row. And I was just thinking today, I went on a walk and I was thinking about the Kyrie Irving game winner, pulling up on the break for 3, game 7, under 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
NBA action, it just, I know some people are like, oh, the 82 games, load management. Okay, put all that aside. But when you come down to like the playoffs, there are a few blowouts in this most recent playoffs, but there were a lot of close games. I mean, look at Halliburton, his clutchness. Nobody saw that coming. And if they said they did, they're lying because the kid, came out of Sacramento, was in the Olympics, right? Didn't get much playing time. So to see him vindicate himself and show the world how talented he is, it was special. And of course, SGA. One thing I love, Martin, is seeing young players from rookie year take leaps, whether it's a small leap or a big leap, like a Tyrese Maxey, right? I'm a Sixers fan. That kid, just, in 2 years, the kid might have been an all-star and just really absorbed everything and his good work ethic, good attitude. SGA, seeing him in for the Clippers with the short hair, real scrawny kid. Yeah. His story is fantastic. We covered him. We did a comparison of him and Penny Hardaway. Learning about SGA's background was really special, and I'm sure you know about that. But I'm on your side. I think the future of the NBA is going to really open a lot of eyes with the use of technology. Obviously, expansion, whether it's Vegas or the Seattle. I got the Seattle Supersonics hat behind me. Nice. I'm all for it. I'm all for the expansion. I'm all for the game growing globally. All right, listen, I could talk to you for days about your journey and how much we have in common, because believe it or not, we do. Just listening to you, we'll talk off air pretty much about that. But we want to get to the NBA draft time machine. You ready to go in, my friend?
Let's do it, man.
And now, get ready for the NBA Now and Then Draft Time Machine.
All right, Martin. So here's the deal. 2 NBA stars from different eras are in the same draft class for fun. If you were guaranteed that both players could have a decade-long career of equally good health, who would you pick? You ready?
I'm ready, but I'm excited, but I'm nervous.
Well, good luck. Let's start with the potential face of the league, if you wanted it. Let's start with a comparison that we did at the start of season 2, NBA Now and Then, the greatest comparisons. Who would you go with in a draft? Anthony Edwards or Dwayne Wade?
I'm going with Dwayne Wade because I've seen him do more at his greatness level than I've seen. I think Ant is going to be amazing. I think he's amazing already.
Yeah.
But I do have I'm a shooting guard guy. I told you I'm a Mike Kobe guy. As far as shooting guards, right after Mike and Kobe, it's D Wade for me. Okay. I was obsessed with his splitting the trap game, his high pick and roll game, his Euro step game. I was such a big D Wade guy. His defensive ability, blocking shots, like he really just did it all. So I'm going with D Wade.
Okay, fair enough. You're not the only one. I love Wade. I think I might go with Ant Edwards. We'll talk about that later about why. Let's go to the next comparison. The next comparison is part of our Hall of Fame series where we compare players from the same era. And I threw this in here just to see, I'm curious what people would do if they had to choose between David Robinson and Patrick Ewing. Who are you going with?
I'm going with David Robinson I just prefer kind of his style more. At his peak, I just think his motor and his strength. I think about the game that he had like a 70-point game one time. Like when he really focused on scoring, he could score the ball. Just a dominant force, really, on both ends. And I love Pat's skill set, but as far as dominance along with skill set, I'd probably give the edge to David Robinson.
Yeah, when you can be one of the only 4 players to get a quadruple double, that's kind of a big deal.
Big deal. Big deal.
Respect to Patrick Ewing. I mean, I think that because I'm a little older than you, and I grew up watching Patrick Ewing, and when his knees went, it was tough. Now, luckily, he had the jumper as a way to contribute offensively. But had he had more health, which is what this exercise is about, maybe he could have given David Robinson a little more run for his money. But now let's go to 2 point guards, 2 Hall of Fame, top 75 point guards. Well, one's still playing, but I'm talking about the point guard, CP3, and Jason Kidd.
Ooh, that's tough. My college coach has this thing against Chris Paul. He's always had it. He texted me and one of my teammates a couple nights ago. Like,
what's his thing?
He just hates Chris Paul. I don't, and he was a point guard. He was a great point guard too. I'm like, Coach, what is going on, man? I think he's one of those guys that just doesn't like the antics and all the, and he always says he's not a winner. It's like, he's not a winner. I'm like, geez, man. I would go with Jason Kidd. I'm a New Jersey guy.
Okay.
I was slightly a Nets fan, even though I was really a Kobe and Lakers fan, but I supported the Nets because of the way they played. And I mean, I saw Jason Kidd at his best, pushing that ball up and down, getting guys going, Richard Jefferson, Kerry Kittles, Kenyon Martin, at his best. Again, I'm big on just style of play, the up and down style. I love Chris Paul more as the half court scoring point guard.
True.
But I would lean more Jason Kidd. I think he's one of the best passers of all time. Yeah. And the pace that he played with as a point guard would be what I would prefer.
Yeah, led those Nets to 2 consecutive NBA finals. They didn't win, obviously, because of your guy, Kobe, Shaq, and obviously the Spurs. But let's move on to another comparison that we did. This comparison, they're both impactful. They both have the hardware. They both have titles. But you can only pick one. Would you go with Nikola Jokic or would you go with Tim Duncan?
Lord, who comes up with these? You guys are just diabolical, man. I'm going with Jokic. I'm going with Jokic. I have a thing for bigs who can pass the ball that way. Not that Timmy wasn't a really good passer too, but we know Jokic is just a different breed of passer where you literally put him at any spot on the floor. He's finding guys. You run your offense through him. Obviously can also score it in the post, score it anywhere. He can shoot the 3. Right. Overall skill set, I'm very much so a Jokic guy. I love Timmy, but in that one, I'd go with Jokic.
Yeah, Jokic grew on me, I guess, for a while. And I'll be the first to admit, I had a little bias because I'm a Sixers fan and it was always Embiid versus Jokic. And then one day, it was a couple years, maybe 2-3 years ago, I just had to take my hat off to this guy because what he's doing, like you said, passing is remarkable. It is, I would almost say, legendary because if you juxtapose some of his passes to someone like, let's say, Magic Johnson, spot on. He's the best passing big man of all time. I don't care who you. Yeah. I watched our Sabonis pass when he was with Portland. Great passer, Vlade Divac. We just did an episode on him and Şengün. Yeah, great passers. But Jokic does passes that it's kind of like a chess sport in his brain, and he knows where his teammates are going to be. Right. So Jokic, I would probably go with Jokic too. What about this comparison? Would you take Bam Adebayo or would you take Alonzo Mourning?
Ooh, I would go with Zoe. I think of Zoe as playing with just so much energy and enthusiasm. Right. And obviously a really great defensive player, pretty good offensively. I'd say Bam has a little more to his game offensively. Yeah. But I think of Zoe as just being such an energy guy, such a passion guy. willing to do anything guy. And I really do love Bam and his skill set, but it might be the 90s baby in me, little nostalgia in me, but I think of the way Zoe competed, and I'd probably go with him.
Okay. Well said. Yeah, Zoe definitely brought the energy. And that's an intangible that, as you know, as a former player, it can really be a catalyst for a comeback or, coming out of halftime. Maybe you had a deflating first half. You get someone with that energy and that mentality. It can notch you up a little bit. This next comparison is another Hall of Fame episode that we did. Believe it or not, these players did not play at the same time. You would think, right? But they did not. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar came into the league in the late 60s. Bill Russell was on his way out at that point. And at that point, he had won so many championships. He has more rings than fingers, right? But who would you go with if you had to pick? Would you go with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or would you go with Bill Russell?
Because I'm more of an offense guy, I go Kareem with the one of the most unstoppable shots of all time. I truthfully, I never really dug into and really studied Kareem or Bill Russell. I've seen highlights, I've seen clips and stuff, but never took the time. I studied Hakeem. I studied Dream for a good little while when I really started to learn who Hakeem Olajuwon was as a basketball player. Never really dug into Hakeem like that deep or Bill Russell. But from what I did see, I mean, that sky hook, man, I mean, my goodness, unstoppable offensive shot. And so just for the sake that I lean offense, I would go Kareem over Bill Russell.
I think one of the few players that could block Kareem's skyhook was, see if you know. Have you seen the footage?
Well, was it Will?
Yep. It was Will. Yeah. You know your history. You know your player history.
I know a little bit. Yeah.
So I was not around for Bill Russell, but I did see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar play in the 80s. I was probably 5 or 6 when I first fell in love with basketball, when the Sixers were in the finals in 83. And then Martin, from 84 up to like the last day of the 80s to 1990, Lakers Celtics every spring, comparable to what we talked about earlier with the Cavs and the Warriors. But with Magic and Bird, it was something that unless you live that, you just can't explain it. Wow. And the point of me saying that is Kareem was still a very vital part of that team. People say, oh, Magic and Worthy and Byron Scott. Kareem still had an important role. Now, he kind of faded toward the Pistons matchup in the finals. He was about to retire. But yeah, I see it makes sense. He gives a little bit more offense, and he wasn't a bad defender either. So, all right, now we have 2 of the fastest players in the last, let's say, 20 years. We're talking about Tyrese Maxey, and we're talking about John Wall. If you had to pick one, who would you go with? 10 years of good health, though. Remember, don't let that knee injury stuff sway you.
Thank you for that reminder. I was a John Wall guy, but I tend to lean more towards guards who can shoot the three, and so I think I'd go Tyrese Maxey, and I'm pretty convicted with that because where John Wall would have the edge over many other guards is probably his athleticism and his downhill ability. Yeah. Tyrese Maxey ain't a bad athlete, and he can get downhill too. And I trust his shooting ability way more than John Wall. So, and that's saying something because John Wall was a heck of a player.
Yeah.
And I think Tyrese Maxey is a heck of a player. He still has some more to show, and I think he will. But in terms of just their game side by side, fully healthy at their best, that version of Tyrese Maxey is dangerous.
Yeah, his shot really came along fast, and then once he played with Harden gave him another tool for his bag with the step back. Tyrese Maxey, he needs a little more gravity when Embiid is out because they double him and he becomes more inefficient. But when he is on, he is on. And John Wall, much respect to him. The guy went through a lot.
Yeah.
But he made his money. He had a great career, and it's debatable if he'll be in the Hall of Fame, but he was a special point guard.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. This next comparison we did was close to home because most of my guys in our team are Sixers fans. So we love this one player who we grew up watching, and you might have seen him play for a little bit in the 90s. and the current player who's got some issues off the court, but most of these guys do. Even the guy that we're comparing him to did. We're talking about Zion Williamson and Charles Barkley. If you could have 10 years of perfectly good health, who would you take?
What is wrong with you people? Who is it? God. What? Oh man. Wow, Uriah. That is tough, man. Oh God, that's tough. I'm going Zion.
Okay.
I'm going
Tell us
Zion.
why. I'm curious why.
Well, see, I think Zion plays with pretty comparable force and strength as Charles Barkley, which
True.
says a lot, which is saying a lot, because Charles Barkley was all force and power. I think Zion has pretty much that same kind of force and power, obviously with a much higher vertical leap. I also think that because of injuries and other issues and what have you, people don't really see just how good Zion actually is. He still has some more, I think, time to do what people like Vince Carter and Zach LaVine have done, which is show that I'm not Aaron Gordon, which is show I'm not just a leaper. I'm not just a high flyer. I think if you really watch Zion, you see that. You see that he can pass the ball, he can make plays, he can get in the paint at will. So I guess I'll put it like this. I think anything that Charles could do, Zion could do, and probably a little bit better.
Okay, fair enough. This would be tough for me too, because Barkley was an underrated dribbler. Yeah, was a decent passer. Physicality there, pretty much the same. Zion might have a slight inch or two with their vertical, but around the rim, Zion is so freaking good. Around the rim, I mean, he can be, whether it's 12 feet or 15 feet, he'll figure out a way to get to the rim.
Right.
Use the backboard. I mean, his brute strength, just dunk on you. Barkley was the same. Yeah. But you're going with Zion. I respect that. Let's go to another comparison. This one is between two point guards. One plays for Atlanta, and the other was Tim Hardaway Sr. So who would you take? Would you go with Tim Hardaway Sr., the UTEP two-step, or Trae Young?
Jesus, man. What is this? What is this? God, when you're a fan of everybody, stuff like this is so hard.
It is.
Jesus. I think I'm going Tim Hardaway. The UTEP two-step was just such a... I have an affinity for that move, and I think I don't want to call it a bias, but Trae Young is probably the better point guard in terms of scoring and assisting. Yeah. But I just love Tim Hardaway's game. It's just as simple as that. I just love the way he moved. I just love his game. I would pick Tim Hardaway. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, Tim was a fun player to watch. His crossover, they both have good crossovers, but one is tight in the box, as you probably know as an analyst. Trae, I might go Trae just because of the lob threat. He's such a phenomenal lobber. Him and James Harden are top two in the league. Yeah. But I do see why Tim Hardaway can be picked. He's clutch. Yeah, had a little more muscle mass to him, and he was a dog. Right. Love Tim Hardaway.
I love Trae too, man. God, I love Trae.
I got Trae right up behind me. I love Trae Young. Anybody 6'1" or 6'2" and under that can do what he does. Right. Because it's just remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So these next two players, probably two of the most cerebral players to ever play during their era. Business savvy, highly intellectual, not just throughout their pro career, but we covered their background. And both of these players were very smart in high school, obviously college. I'm talking about Jaylen Brown or Andre Iguodala. Who would you take?
Ooh, I'm taking Iggy. Iggy. And I really like Jaylen Brown. I love Jaylen Brown. I'm taking Iggy. I think when we talk about, like you said, 10 years of good health, thinking of them kind of in their best, I think about Iggy with Philly. I think about a version of Iggy that was in Philly mixed with what he was for the Warriors. And while Jaylen Brown might have a little more alpha, best player on your team nature to his game than Iggy, I more so prefer the player who's going to do a little bit of everything, who can play different roles, who could be a primary scorer one night. And Jaylen Brown can be that, but I think Iggy's passing is underrated. I think at his best, he's been a great passer. I think the world of Iggy, and I think again, you could build around Jaylen too, but I think Iggy as like a centerpiece, I would probably go with Iggy, which is surprising because I feel like Jaylen is probably the more popular option.
Yeah, Iggy used to give LeBron not fits, but he would, when it comes to guarding LeBron, like nobody can stop him. But if you're going to slow him down, Andre Iguodala had some good nights defensively against him. And Jaylen Brown, I love Jaylen Brown. I just love his approach, the FCH, WPO, faith work. I forget what it is, but
right.
I love that. I love that he plays chess. He spoke at MIT or Harvard or whatever he was. Yeah. I think they're a great representation of the league and players. And let's look at two other players who represent the league really well. One is got some interesting romance going on. Talk about Klay Thompson. Look at him. Klay, look.
He's about to be a whole new man next year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's shooting left-handed threes.
Oh, I saw that on your page today. He hit 10 threes in a row lefty. Oh, no. He's unlocking a whole new bag.
Klay Thompson is something else. Still got some gas in the tank. Yeah. But if you had to choose between him and Chris Mullin, who would you take?
Ooh, that's tough because if you know Chris Mullin, you know shooter and also a dog, just a really good player. I'd go with Klay. I'd go with Klay. I mean, just the picture perfect form, 37 and a quarter. Like you just think about how deadly he can be, how he lights up. I love watching Klay shoot the basketball. It's pure beauty. And Chris Mullin, man, really good. God, that's tough. It's a little recency bias, but I would go Klay.
Yeah, if you like or if you love Klay Thompson's shooting form, I know you love Chris Mullins. That sweet lefty jumper, made the dream team. But Klay, maybe for defensive purposes, I could see that going with him. Now we have two players who played for the same college, had the same role when they played. Talking about two sharpshooters, Grayson Allen or JJ Redick. Who would you go with?
Right. I'm going with JJ. I think more of the prototypical rhythm shooter. I like rhythm guys who you can run off a stagger screen and just get to the footwork and get to the shot. Grayson Allen, I like his game a lot, but he's gotten a little extra. And I can like extra. I like what he has to his game. He can do more off the dribble, I think, than JJ could. Yes. But I think JJ's a little more, and I mean this in a good way, predictable, where you know what his specialty is. Run him off stagger screens, create gravity, and he's became a master at making reads off of just coming off of screens, whether it's the shot or he started to put it on the floor a little bit more in the league and make some plays. But I like JJ for just knowing what you can do with him.
This next one, two lefties, two power forwards. One played for your Nets back in the 90s, and the other has been playing for Minnesota the past year and a half, 2 years. We're talking about Julius Randle or Derek Coleman.
Ooh, God, you're bringing out names, man. Derek Coleman? I'm going Coleman. I'm going with Derek Coleman. I always liked Derek Coleman. He was a little more minimal. I think of him with the Sixers, that version of him that I remember best. And I just think he was more simple with his. I think they have similar skill sets.
Yes.
To Julius's credit, he can do so much. He's progressed his game so much where he can do a lot off the dribble, and be a playmaker. But even with that, Julius can get into trouble a lot with just dribbling and going into traffic. And I think his ability kind of works against him sometimes. I think Derek Coleman was a more like role player, but will be highly productive, can stretch it, can be a stretch big, but can also play the power forward. I like Derek Coleman there.
Yeah, these players, I do the bio of each player comparison. And Derek Coleman, you learn so much about these guys. He lost someone to gun violence growing up in it was either Detroit or down south. I can't remember. Dealt with racism, being chased by dogs. It was crazy for him growing up. Julius Randle didn't have his dad with him. His mom, very special relationship with his mom. Wears number 30 because his mom wore number 30 in college.
Wow.
So you see these players and they're very similar in skill set. And I get DC was the man. I like Julius Randle. I when he was with the Knicks, I know people say it worked out for New York and Minnesota. I just thought if Randle would have stayed with the Knicks, I think he was fine where he was. But I don't know. That's neither here nor there. Let's go to two other players that protect the paint or are versatile when it comes to playing in the middle. We did a comparison recently of Alperen Şengün and Vlade Divac.
Wow.
Both European, both really great with their vision and instinct. But who would you go with?
Wow. I go with Vlade. That's high praise for Şengün, putting him next to Vlade, man. I think you gotta put some work in to get to that level. Not that, Vlade was, it's not like he was the best center ever, one of the top players in the league, but as a passer, you put him in that high post elbow area, making reads, him and Chris Webber together. God, the best probably big man passing tandem that we've seen. Okay. I like Şengün a lot. I feel like I still got to see him polish up a little bit more to see what he really is. But he's clearly got it. But I'm going Vlade with that.
It's fair. Well, I have a prediction. Şengün's assists might increase, maybe one full assist or maybe two, just because you know who is going to be on the court with him.
Yeah.
KD's going to get some wide open shots in Houston.
What a target. What a target. Yeah.
This next comparison we did to small forwards, power forwards, depending on where you put them, Pascal Siakam and Lamar Odom.
I'm a Kobe Lakers guy. We couldn't have done it without LO. LO, to me, was one of the most underrated, most unique players ever.
Okay. Fair.
Putting a position on him was the hardest thing you could do. I mean, he wasn't just a point, but he could be power forward, he could be point guard, he could be dual forward, he could hit the three, he could take you off the dribble, he was smooth, he was sleek, like lefty. Come on. It's got to be LO. I'm going LO.
Okay. Got a little bias in your corner. I get that.
A little bit, yeah.
It's like put down the analysis clipboard.
It's like once when you're a fan, it's like you appreciate that player so much more. They won, they helped your team win. But aside from that, really, like LO just as a specimen, just as a player, as a skill set, 6'10", lefty, like, man, he was just rare, man. He was rare.
He was. He went through a hell of a lot from childhood all the way up. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you know his background, and forget all the reality TV stuff and Chloe and all that. But just like you said, skill wise, he was incomparable at that time. Not many people were doing what he was doing. Oh. And did you know, he went to Rhode Island, right? He played 1 year at Rhode Island. Did you know that he was supposed to play at a different college before that?
I don't think so.
He was supposed to play for UNLV.
Ooh.
Supposed to play for UNLV, some ACT scores and something maybe with the marijuana, something got in there. And that opportunity kind of went off the table. And then and he was thinking about going straight to the NBA because players like KG were doing that at the time. So who did Lamar go to? He flew out to LA and he spent time with Kobe. And Kobe kind of helped him like make that decision to do the next step. So, wow. All right. Last comparison. This is one of my favorites from season 2. We compared Kawhi Leonard and Scottie Pippen.
Ooh.
If you had to pick one, who would you go with, Martin?
I'm going with Kawhi because we saw Kawhi lead a team to a championship. And we saw Scottie try, and not for lack of trying. And I know there are stipulations. It was impressive what the Bulls still were able to do without Michael. Yep. And I give them that. But Kawhi's offensive skill set got to a point where I was in awe. I became in awe of what, especially given where he came from. You talked about loving seeing guys progress from their rookie year, from him being just the defensive guy for the Spurs early on at 21 years old to then becoming this off the dribble, double between dribble combinations, pull up jump shooter, this just all around lethal, deadly mid-range scorer and 3-point shooter, frankly. Man, I became such a Kawhi guy in 2019 when he won with Toronto. I'm just like, man, he put it all together. He really did. People compare him to Michael. People say he's the new age Michael Jordan just with his skill set. Like, right. In fact, I had Brandon Scoop B. Robinson, who's an NBA insider, buddy of mine from college. I've had him on my show a few times. And we were talking before the playoffs, kind of previewing stuff. We were talking about Kawhi, and he actually compared him now to Michael when he was on the Wizards. He was like, man, he looks like old Mike out there with just simple back to the basket, not too many dribbles, but like he'll sauce you up here and there. I'm a Kawhi guy, man. When he's at his best, I'm absolutely a Kawhi guy.
Fair enough. Makes all the sense in the world. So you've just finished your first experience with the NBA Draft Time Machine. You did such a good job. I might have you come back and do season 1 comparisons because
man, that was rough, man.
I love talking hoops with you, man.
You guys are nuts. You got some nuts people over there working on this stuff. I don't know if it's just you putting this stuff. Whoever's doing it, y'all are not right in the head.
I'll fill you in on a little secret. We have a Slack account. I'm sure you probably know what Slack is, and we have this room called Comparison Ideas, and every day my guys are like, what do you think about this comparison? Who are we going to compare to Monte Ellis? Who are we going to compare to Joe Dumars? I mean, wow, there's some real season 3 coming up. When I finish recording, I'll share some of our comparisons coming up, but let's get back to you because I'm trying to shine some light on your efforts because they're solid efforts, basketball all around. So are there any events or projects that you're working on with your podcast or your platform that you want to share or just tune in or what's going on?
Yeah, the podcast, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next with the podcast. We are going to expand a little bit, introduce some new and different faces, some new and different voices. Going to be doing some more panels, which I'll be wanting to talk to you a little bit about that as well. But sure. Just creating a little more of an open, inclusive atmosphere with the show, bringing in some different, credible, unique basketball voices on the show. And we got some things that'll be happening. Protect Our Queens too is going to be doing some interesting things the rest of this year. We have some really good guests coming up, lined up, some coaches, some high profile players. Yeah, on the Holistic Hooper front, we'll be rolling out our Yoga for Hoopers club pretty soon. Okay. We've done a few in-person events called Yoga for Hoopers, where we just curate a particular hour-long yoga class for basketball players. We hosted it here in Jersey a couple times for high school and college players. And pretty soon we're going to be rolling out the Yoga for Hoopers club, which will be mostly virtual, but it'll give players access to virtual classes weekly, as well as other offerings that they'll have exclusive access to.
Is that Holistic Hoopers event, is that months away? Is it weeks away? I'm just curious.
I'm curious too, but it sometime probably in the fall.
Okay. Yeah, I have other people in my network that, as you were talking, maybe some type of collaborative efforts to bring more people to the court can be beneficial to you and everyone involved. So, and thanks for mentioning me as panel possibility. I would love to be part of that. But we're pretty much at the end of the show, Martin. Can you please give everyone your handles again, your website, give us everything before we head out?
Yeah, Basketball Society _ on Instagram, and then look up Basketball Society on YouTube. You'll see what we're doing. We're talking women's basketball every week. We're talking NBA. We're talking basketball training, all kinds of basketball things that are happening in the basketball universe. And then you can find me on Instagram at martin.soaries, my first and last name. And thanks for having me, Uriah. This is a lot of fun, man. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. You will definitely be back because you have so much knowledge. And like I said, man, you know how to convey and get your point across, and being concise with it is always appreciative. So the 50, 40, 90 interview series, all of our interviews are free. You can find us on Spotify, Apple. We also have a Patreon page for Hall of Fame episodes, special category episodes, what if episodes. I mean, we try to cover the gamut, just like Basketball Society, but we do it in a comparative way. Like that's our niche. That's our bread and butter. So that being said, thank you for tuning in. Check out Martin's content. You must do it. You will not regret it. Until next time, this has been NBA Now and Then, Greatest Comparisons. Peace.